open hearts, open arms, open minds. There is welcome in this place. There is welcome in this space. There is welcome with embrace, with open hearts. A place for caring and acceptance, openness and trust. Actions, they are just. All are welcome here. A place for belonging, with open hearts, open arms, open minds. There is welcome in this place. There is welcome in this space. There is welcome with embrace, with open hearts. A place for risking and affirming, radical and bold. No one fits the mold. All are welcome here. A place of inclusion, with open hearts, open arms, open minds. There is welcome in this place. There is welcome in this space. There is welcome with embrace, with open hearts. A place for healing and releasing brokenness and pain, hurt that's been sustained. All are welcome here. A place for receiving, with open hearts, open arms, open minds. There is welcome in this place. There is welcome in this space. There is welcome with embrace, with open hearts. A place for questions and to wonder, liberating views, relevant and new. All are welcome here. A place for engaging, with open hearts, open minds, open arms. There is welcome in this place. There is welcome in this space. There is welcome with embrace, with open hearts.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Religious Society, Unitarian Universalist in Newburyport, Massachusetts. I'm Charlie Himmel, and I have the privilege of serving as your worship associate this morning, alongside our welcoming committee, which strives to make our church a more welcoming place for all those in the LGBTQ community. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We are glad you are here. We come together at FRS in person and online, committed to love, peace, and justice. Our mission and our invitation to all of you is, come as you are, journey together in love, act with courage, and transform our world. If you are worshiping online and would like to access this morning's order of service, please click on the link just below the live stream. If you would like a large print order of service or hymnal, please ask an usher, and they will be happy to help you. Please take a moment to review your order of service for all the activities happening this week. In particular, I highlight all weekday mornings, the parish hall will be open for rummage sale collections. Directly following the service, we have a Justice Sunday led by the Welcoming Committee. They'll be talking about the history of Transgender Day of Remembrance before going to Marcus Square to lead a vigil. There will be soup and salad in the parish hall. Thursday at 5:30 p.m., Reverend Laurel will be leading a small group conversation in the lower meeting house for anyone who is feeling uneasy about Thanksgiving gatherings post-election. Every Sunday, it is such a blessing that we can gather, so let us give ourselves to it. Welcome once again. It's good to be together.
Thank you, Charlie. Our call to worship this morning comes from the Reverend M. Barclay, who is a trans, non-binary Methodist pastor. And this is an excerpt from a poem they wrote for Transgender Day of Visibility a few years ago. The only right way to be trans is the one that preserves your soul, the one that helps you tend to the holy in you, the holy in your toes, in your lips, in your gut, the holy in your scars, in your hair, or lack thereof. Fall in love with it, assure it that it is welcome. You are not a burden or a lie or a distraction. You are a holy encounter. In all the ways you change, in all the ways you stay the same, your flesh is a testimony to the power and beauty of wearing your own truth. It looks so good on you. The only right way to be trans is the one that preserves your soul, so we can find each other and tend well to the holy in this collective body, yearning to be received authentically, justly, holy. So come, let us worship together. And I invite you to rise in body or in spirit for our opening hymn. It's number 95 in the gray hymnal. There is more love somewhere, number 95.
Today's service is being led by the Welcoming Committee, which is always open to new members. Please join in saying our chalice lighting words as my fellow members of the Welcoming Committee light the chalice. The words can be found in your order of service. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and meanings. Light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Good morning. My name is Woman, and it's an honor to read the Candles of Peace. And I just want to say how so many of you came today. Thank you. Oh, I'm going to get all verklempt. Happens every time. Okay. Each week, we also light up 2 candles of peace, representing 2 places on earth we lift up and remember as a sacred encounter with our world. There are an untold number of places on earth that need peace. These 2 we especially hold close in this service and through the week ahead. After each candle is lit, I will invite you to respond, saying peace, salam, shalom. Our first candle is lit for communities across the country where transgender and gender nonconforming people are feeling concern for their safety and questioning what the future will look like in the wake of the results of the recent presidential election. The Trevor Project, a crisis hotline for LGBTQ+ youth, reported a 700% increase in call volume the day after the election compared to the weeks prior. While anti-trans discourse featured prominently throughout the campaign, in an unprecedented legislative attack on transgender individuals began in 2023 and continued through 2024, the results of the election leave the LGBTQ+ community in general and transgender and non-binary members of the community specifically at risk for losing hard-won rights as well as access to necessary care and basic protections. To this we respond, peace, salam, shalom. Our second candle is lit for the 29 different communities across the United States where the transgender people who were murdered this year in acts of anti-trans violence lived and died, from Athens, Georgia in the south, Rochester, New York in the northeast, Columbus, Ohio in the Midwest, to Phoenix, Arizona in the southwest, and Seattle, Washington in the Pacific Northwest, and on and on. And even right here in Massachusetts, no community is immune. 2 of the people who will be commemorated this Transgender Day of Remembrance come to the U.S. from their home countries of Mexico and Somalia, hoping to find a better life. While the commemoration of Transgender Day of Remembrance focuses on how these individuals died, we know and remember that they also lived. As members of biological families and families of choice, and as community members, we hope that the families and communities left behind find peace and healing. To this we respond, peace, salam, shalom.
And now I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we join our voices in our affirmation of faith, followed by the doxology. The words can be found in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, and fellowship to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. You may be seated. And we're hooking up the big screen up here. Reverend Rebecca has a message. We're going to do a naming ceremony for two of our transgender congregants. And Reverend Rebecca recorded a message for everyone before we start that because she's away in California this week, so she couldn't be here. But by the magic of technology, we may. This is like the most high-pressure part of worship, right? You're doing great. This is just like a meditation, right? This is just a moment to pause.
My friends, this is monumental, what is about to happen. And it is so right and so good. I wish I were here, but I am here, always. Our congregation has been a welcoming congregation for decades, a beacon in this community and beyond, a place of welcome for all, an ally for the LGBTQ+ community. And since I have been with you, we have been increasingly focusing as well on trans and their rights, and vigils in Market Squares and Square and services here, and getting to know and love so many important people. I am proud of who we are and who we're becoming. And now more than ever, this is very, very critical and important work. Turning to what you're about to do together, we're about to do together, this is the first naming ceremony that we've had. And for two of the most wonderful human beings that I know, August and Everett, I love you. I respect you. I applaud you. I celebrate you. And I'm so proud and happy and joyful that we get to do this here. It will go down in history. So you will all be sharing in a covenant together, but I wanted to say it myself as well. August and Everett, we covenant to call you August. We covenant to call you Everett. We covenant to use your pronouns that you have told us, he and him, which are your true pronouns. We covenant to practice grace and repair should we misgender anyone or either of you, apologizing and beginning again. We covenant to be a place of shelter, protection, and celebration for both of you. We covenant to celebrate the joy of this becoming. We call you August. We call you Everett. We know you as August. We know you as Everett. We love you as August. We love you as Everett. Amen, and blessed be.
With respect and joy, with affirmation of belonging, we recognize a member of our community, August, son of Lisa Mead and Christine Dougherty, brother of Katie Mead, worthy in his own right. And with respect and joy, we affirming your belonging, we recognize another member of our community, Everett, son of Aaron Hutchinson Himmel and Christopher Himmel, brother of Charlie and Maggie Himmel, and grandson of Tom Himmel, worthy in his own right. Unitarian Universalism is sourced from many traditions, and in this particular moment, let us think of the Hebrew and Christian scriptures, wherein, as a sign of someone coming to their fullest self through connection with their deepest source, their names changed. Abram became Abraham, Sarai became Sarah, Jacob became Israel, Saul became Paul. And today we celebrate the new name that reflects a truth long hidden, now revealed. So August and Everett, will you please come forward and stand next to me? And August and Everett, will you hold out your hands that I might touch this water of blessing to your skin? Will you allow me to touch this water to the place where your heart resides? Releasing the name given to you by your parents, you do not let go of your family. Releasing the gender you were assigned at birth, you do not let go of your life that came before this moment. Instead, this ritual marks and amplifies the process of becoming and the process of integration, the integration of your whole self, the becoming of your truest self. As such, this congregation covenants to honor you, who you have always been, yet was unknown to us as a whole. This congregation covenants to honor the you who you are declaring publicly and fully today. So, by what name shall you be known?
August.
Everett.
And what pronouns do you claim as your own?
I use he, him pronouns.
He, him.
Affirming August and Everett as worthy and doing so in this faith that proclaims August and Everett as whole and holy, a faith who celebrates the truth of who you are, I turn now to their families and invite them both to come forward. We'll start with August's family. Will you present your open palms and receive this water blessing from the congregation? Please encircle August as an embodied sign of your love. Do you lend your heart, your mind, your spirit, and your body to the becoming of your son, knowing him and loving him as August?
Yes, we do.
Do you covenant to do what is yours to do, honor, protect, and celebrate him?
We do.
You may continue to surround August, opening your circle to the congregation. Affirming August as worthy and doing so in this faith that declares August as whole and holy, a faith who celebrates the truth of who August is. We'll turn to the congregation afterwards. We're doing this twice. So we're going to do Everett first, and then we'll do the whole congregation part. So to Everett's family, will you present your open palms and receive this water blessing from the congregation? Please encircle Everett as a sign of your embodied love. You get a real circle. This is quite a huddle. Do you lend your heart, your mind, your spirit, and your body to the becoming of your son, knowing him and loving him as Everett? Do you covenant to do what is yours to do to honor, protect, and celebrate him? You may continue to surround Everett, opening your circle to the congregation and affirming Everett as worthy, and doing so in this faith that declares Everett as whole and holy, a faith who celebrates the truth of who Everett is. We turn now to the congregation as a whole. And I'll speak a series of questions like we did with the family, and I invite you in response to say, "We do." And then we'll end with the words of covenant that are in your order of service. Do you covenant to affirm and call these fellow congregants by the name they have chosen for themselves? Do you covenant to use August and Everett's pronouns in their presence and their absence, recognizing that these pronouns are not a preference and are not optional, but are one of the ways that we affirm and recognize their inherent worth and dignity? Should you misgender August and Everett or anyone, do you covenant to practice grace with a simple apology and beginning again with the right name and the right pronouns? Do you covenant to help each other with this, gently reminding someone when they speak mistakenly, receiving such reminders as gracefully as possible? Do you covenant to lend mind, heart, body, and spirit to an abundant love that recognizes, affirms, and when necessary, defends the wide expressions of gender in the whole human family? Do you covenant to celebrate the joy of this becoming? And let us read the covenant in unison that's printed in your order of service. We covenant to call you August and Everett. We covenant to use those pronouns you have told us are your true pronouns. We covenant to practice with grace and repair should we misgender anyone, apologizing and beginning again. We covenant to be a place of shelter, protection, and celebration for you. We covenant to celebrate the joy of this becoming. We call you August and Everett. We know you as August and Everett. We love you as August and Everett. Amen. And now please join in singing our children down to Young Church. The words, I think, are in your order of service. Maybe? Maybe you know them. Go now in peace.
The generosity of our community is an essential ministry that supports the work of the church, both in Newburyport and beyond. Each week, 50% of the Sunday offering, not designated as a pledge, goes to a local community partner engaged in important efforts to transform our region. Our community partner this month is Essex County Habitat for Humanity. Habitat for Humanity brings people together to build affordable homes, strengthen families, and foster hope. Habitat families buy their homes after they provide between 240 and 360 sweat equity hours to build their own home and other families' homes. Since 1985, 127 new homes have been built and 58 homes rehabbed. Please give, so one day everyone will have a decent place to live. Thank you. To give online, please use the link in your order of service or below the live stream. You can also make a contribution by text, and of course, you can always mail a check to the church as well. Thank you. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Colors in the sky, we move and blend as love. The touch of this, a mix and match as gifts from heaven above. Our genders may seem fixed, but even these may change. And as we beauty in between, that may at first seem strange. Our bodies may not match the way we feel inside, but we can change, transform, and find your love still deep and wide. So if we break the mold, traditions put in place, let us with courage live our lives with kindness, love, and grace. Creating God, you dance, you move as one in three. Come show us by your rainbow light our shared humanity. The heavens and the earth are made new every day. Help us discover by your grace new truth, new life, new ways.
Nick. Each week, we lift up the joys and sorrows of our beloved faith community. Betsy Hazen will light candles as I read what was shared in advance of this service. As always, you can write something in this book that's located in the vestibule before the service, or email betweenus@frsuu.org. And before we begin, Nick's gonna sing Sanctuary.
Open my heart to be a sanctuary, all made holy, loved and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
Lee Pearson writes that she feels blessings and so much love for her older child, Carrie, who publicly came out as transgender this week. May their journey be filled with love and joy. And Aspen Surratt writes in remembrance of all those who were lost too soon out of fear. Maxine Steeves, widow of our former minister Bertrand Steeves, died this Wednesday evening. Casey Swallow reflects that Maxine continued to be committed to their extensive work for racial justice. She was proud of her ties to her home state of Maine and remembered fondly wonderful summers with her family in Freiburg. She was a gifted writer and shared her stories with wonderful friends and fellow writers. Though housebound in recent years, she maintained an easygoing and grateful approach to life and had a wonderful sense of humor. She thoroughly enjoyed the view from her windows of the birds, the squirrels, and puppies frolicking in the great outdoors. We looked forward to our visits with her, and we will all miss her terribly. And Linda Lou Burciaga writes that Maxine and I were ministers' partners together in Newburyport in the 1980s. As a longtime spouse, Maxine modeled for me, a newbie, how to navigate that role with her wisdom, grace, and delightful humor. I will treasure her always. Nancy Crochet is joyful that her new grandson is visiting for the week. Lucas Finley Crocher was born in June to their younger daughter, Becca, and her husband. And yes, Lucas's last name is Crocher. Take that, patriarchy. This makes 4 grandsons total for Nancy and Paul in 5 years, and their new motto is "Boys Are Us." Dottie DiChiara and Anita Wright share the good news that Dot's sister, Ellen Jane, who has been undergoing treatment for lung cancer at Brigham and Women's Hospital, has turned the corner and is in recovery. Anita writes, she made it home last Wednesday with an entourage of 3 daughters who are RNs, 6 grandchildren, her hapless husband, Steve, and 2 St. Bernard dogs guarding her. We are so grateful for her return, with every day being so precious. We send them all our very best wishes. And Everett and August's families want to share that we are joyful for Everett's and August's name ceremony today. Having our community celebrate and bless their names is truly meaningful for our families. And we'll light that one final candle for the joys and sorrows and complexities that go unspoken, that we remember we still hold them in community, that we're never alone when we're carrying something of great significance. And now we'll sing Sanctuary through once.
Open my heart to be a sanctuary, all made holy, loved and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for
And now I invite you further into a spirit of prayer and meditation, however you find that quiet place inside, if you can today. Maybe that means you want to feel your feet on the floor of this very, very old building. Maybe it means feeling the warmth of the people around you, remembering that you're not alone here, that there is so much love in this place. Maybe you need to let out a big exhale. Maybe closing your eyes feels good to you. This is a prayer for the queer kids that I wrote a few years ago after not finding one and deciding there needed to be one. When I search prayer for queer kids, the first hit is all sin, asking God to force repentance for what I call holiness. And so I yell, I swear, and I rage, and I feel the heat of fury mixed with protection. Absolutely not. That thing they despise, I call it sacred. This being oneself in a world that suggests repentance with a tone of holier than thou damnation. No, not here, not in this house. There will be no repenting for the courage to love honestly. For the ways your gender beckons you to bloom, no, this is a prayer for the queer kids. A ring of fire protecting the Eden that exists inside of embodied love. In this house, we speak only of the holiness in existing honestly, in living and loving fully. My prayer for queer kids is this: may you find the people who love you fiercely. May the God of grace fill your lungs with life when people leave you gasping through tears. May you know in your bones that you can never be separated from what is sacred, because it exists inside of you. It exists in every gesture of love you dare to offer the world, a salve to the soul bruise of anyone who believes they are only somewhat worthy. An act of holy defiance. You, my dear, are glorious, just as you are, now and forever. Amen.
The reading this morning is by Aluk Vaid Menon, an internationally acclaimed poet, comedian, public speaker, and actor who is gender nonconforming and trans feminine and uses they, them, their pronouns. Before I read the poem titled Our Precarious Joy, I wanted to share Aluk's answer to a question in an interview from 2023. The interviewer asked, "How do you stay hopeful when the world starts to look bleak?" And Aluk's answer was the following: "I read LGBTQ history. I remember that there have been many moments in our history where the world felt bleak and impossible, and our transcestors kept going. I study how they did it, the jokes they cracked, the portraits they took, the communities they sustained, and I remember how lucky I am to be a part of that lineage, and how I have to do everything I can to make sure it remains unbroken. The poem I'm reading this morning is called Our Precarious Joy, and it was written in January 2020. Feeling is dangerous because it requires us to dwell in anguish rather than anesthetize it, as if it never happened. So many fear joy because they fear losing it. They hate us because we live here in this precarious joy, and we have found preciousness still. It is far easier to desensitize ourselves to the world, but what about the romance of living, the tundra of grief, of striving, of becoming, like every breath is an invitation to another way of being? What about the dignity of being? I won't settle for anything less. I would rather weep than pretend. I would rather be hated than digestible. I would rather be mirthful than meander around like happiness is some rare ray of light piercing through my window. It is not that we are extra. It is that we are feeling and you are not, or rather, you refuse.
There has been a lot of false rhetoric about trans people in the news these past couple years, and given that this year's annual ministry theme is truth, the Welcoming Committee thought it would be a good idea to share some truths about being trans. Number one, trans people have always existed. Trans people have existed for centuries. In fact, people who we might consider today to be transgender lived and thrived in Mesopotamia, the first known civilization in human history. Not only were they members of Mesopotamian society, they were priests. Mesopotamia was a polytheistic society, meaning they worshipped multiple gods and goddesses. One of these goddesses was the Queen of Heaven, Inanna. The Gala were a class of priests sacred to Inanna. One of their primary roles was to sing hymns and laments to the goddess in Emesal, a Sumerian dialect spoken primarily by women that was used to render the speech of female gods. They presided over religious rites, healed the sick, predicted the future, made music, raised money for the poor, and dissolved evil during lunar eclipses. They were well-known and respected members of their communities, and many of them were what we would now think of as transgender. Biological males entered into the service of Inanna and became female for all intents and purposes. In their eyes, Inanna had made them women, and their society accepted that. Not only have trans people always existed, they are divine creations. Number two, being trans is neither a Western nor a colonial concept. There are many cultures around the world that recognize more than two genders. In North American indigenous cultures, two-spirit is an umbrella term used to describe those who embody both feminine and masculine spirits, and have traditionally occupied important social and spiritual roles in their communities. The Mahu of indigenous Hawaiian and Tahitian culture are also thought of as embodying both male and female spirits. Historically, Mahu adopted important roles in their communities by being caretakers and healers, and passing down sacred knowledge. The indigenous Zapotec people in Mexico have long recognized Muxe as a cultural third gender. There are also a number of other recognized genders in Africa, Asia, the Pacific Islands, Latin America, and the Caribbean. In many of these cultures, people who identify as these third or more genders serve important roles in society, such as priests, artists, and ceremonial leaders. Many of these genders have been largely marginalized and eradicated as a result of colonization. Number three, being trans is natural. There are a number of animals who engage in behavior that we might consider to be transgender to obtain advantages such as reduced competition, better access to territory, and improved mating opportunities. These behaviors include projecting an appearance that doesn't necessarily match that of their biological sex, and even changing their sex on a biological level. This is particularly common in snakes, lizards, bugs, birds, and fish. In fact, around 500 distinct fish species biologically change their sex as adults. A primary example of this is clownfish. All clownfish are born male and have the ability to change their sex, but will do so only to become the dominant female of a group. For clownfish in particular, this change is irreversible, but for many fish species, they can change sex back and forth. Number 4, gender-affirming care is safe and evidence-based. Medical care for transgender youth is backed by decades of research and supported by every leading medical organization and World Health Authority, including the American Medical Association, the World Health Organization, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Endocrine Society, and the American Psychiatric Association, and the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. Efforts to ban and criminalize this care are not based in medical or scientific expertise and frequently spread misinformation about what that care is. The following statement was issued in 2022 by the American Academy of Pediatrics. There is strong consensus among the most prominent medical organizations worldwide that evidence-based, gender-affirming care for transgender children and adolescents is medically necessary and appropriate. It can even be life-saving. The decision of whether and when to start gender-affirming treatment, which does not necessarily lead to hormone therapy or surgery, is personal and involves careful consideration by each patient and their family. Number 5, gender-affirming care is difficult to access. Gender-affirming care is difficult to access for a number of reasons, including financial constraints, lack of availability of gender-affirming care, lack of knowledge about gender-affirming care from medical professionals, discriminatory behavior from those in the medical field, such as dead naming and misgendering, interpersonal barriers such as fear of being estranged from family and friends, lack of accurate information about gender-affirming care, and long wait times and short supplies of prescriptions. One of the most glaring issues as of late is the lack of accessibility to gender-affirming care due to geographical constraints and policy barriers that restrict access to gender-affirming medical services. According to the Williams Institute, as of August 2024, 39.4% of trans youth aged 13 to 17 are living in the 26 states that have passed bans on gender-affirming care. Number 6, this is a fun one. Cisgender people receive gender-affirming care too. Gender-affirming care is a term typically used in reference to transgender health care, but it is predominantly used by cisgender people, or people whose gender identity aligns with their sex assigned at birth. For example, hormone replacement therapy for menopausal women, breast augmentation and enhancement, breast reduction for men with gynecomastia, breast reconstruction following a mastectomy, testosterone therapy for cisgender men with low T, hormone blockers to treat premature puberty, growth hormones for kids with growth hormone deficiency, testosterone blockers to treat acne, hair transplants, laser hair removal, facelifts, face fillers, tummy tucks, buttock enhancement, just to name a few. Number 7, transphobia hurts everyone. Many of us witnessed this over the summer during the Paris Olympics with Algerian boxer Iman Khalif. Despite the rigorous testing Olympic athletes must go through to prove their eligibility to compete, and the fact that it is illegal to be transgender in Algeria, or LGBTQ at all for that matter, Khalif, a cisgender woman, was accused of being transgender due to her exceptional athleticism and, quote, masculine features. This lie, rooted in misogyny, was repeated all over the internet by news and media outlets and by public figures and politicians, including former President and President-elect Donald Trump. Cisgender women of color are particularly vulnerable to this phenomenon as they don't always fit the white standard for femininity. Transphobia is being used as yet another strategy to police women's bodies. Number 8, the majority of people who transition are happy with their decision. There are a lot of statistics out there, many of which are flawed and biased, that are being used to restrict access to gender-affirming care. But the reality is that the majority of people who transition are happy with their decision. In 2022, the National Center for Transgender Equality conducted a survey of over 92,000 trans people in the U.S., the largest survey of trans people in U.S. history. Of respondents who were currently receiving hormone treatment, 98% reported that receiving such treatment made them more satisfied with their lives. Of respondents who underwent at least one form of gender-affirming surgery, 97% reported that receiving such treatment made them more satisfied with their lives. Following today's service, I highly encourage everyone to join me next door in Parish Hall, where I will be doing a short presentation on another trans truth, which is the reality of fatal anti-trans violence in our country. I will be giving a brief history on Transgender Day of Remembrance and why we observe it, as well as reviewing the statistics on fatal anti-trans violence. Following the presentation, everyone is invited to meet outside the church at 12:45 for a silent march to Market Square, where we will be holding a Trans Day of Remembrance vigil. I hope to see you all there.
Thank you, August. And now I invite you all to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing our closing hymn. It's in that little teal hymnal, number 1014, Answering the Call of Love, number 1014.
We're going to try something slightly different with this today.
Oh.
I will sing the verses, and I invite us all to join in singing the refrain, "We are answering the call of love." The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim, we are answering the call of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim, we are answering the call of love. A bright new day is dawning, where love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim, we are answering the call of love. We are answering the call of love.
Please remain standing and join in saying our unison benediction as Charlie extinguishes the chalice. The words are in your order of service. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us now and always. August already invited you to Soup Sunday in Parish Hall. There's soup, and we'll learn about Transgender Day of Remembrance and then have a vigil. So you're all invited to migrate to the building next door. And we have 2 flags that we're going to bless. And these are going to go up in our youth group room upstairs next door. And we'll have these in the receiving line, so I invite you to touch them as you're leaving to add your blessing. May these flags be a symbol of truth, of courage, and of love, symbols of the trueness of being trans, a celebration of what it means to live fully and honestly. May those who see them know that they carry the blessing of this entire community, one where we affirm the wholeness and humanity of every person, and thus, recognizing the cruelty so often directed at trans people, we specifically affirm the wholeness and humanity of transgender people. May we see these flags and remember that courage is contagious, that love grows, and that liberation is always collective. Go in peace, my friends, and return again in great joy. Amen. You may be seated.